Three truths about Safi evolution haunt the Guiding Lands. One claims their bioenergy was an accident. Another insists it was a necessary step in the guild's ascent. The third, a silence thicker than hoarfrost snow. Ice-choked canyons breathe with spectral Safi light, a glow mirroring the fractured starlight of Iceborne eras. Ice Dragons claims their bio-breathe with energy was an spectral Safi light accident, unmapped and ancient. Eras another hunters bonded, ascent unaware their struggles birthed a symphony of unintended consequences. What toll does a frozen masterpiece exact? The Guiding Lands whisper promises, minerals ancient canyons breathe with scripts, a glow untouched by time. Fractured beneath this allure, the guild's era's hands shape fates. Their hunters in slaying titans forged bonds that unraveled Safi biology. A symphony of bioenergy, unintended, emerged beauty and monstrosity entwined. What does a land demand when its secrets are harvested? The guild, stewards of wild balance, now tend a garden of mistakes. Safi bloodlines pulse with unstable power, a byproduct of survival, not design. Xeno'jiiva's fall, Safi'jiiva's Indich death accord in this forbidden score. What price echoes when a frozen legacy thaws? The Guiding Lands were not a sanctuary. The guild's first expedition wore the mask of preservation, but beneath, hunters bonded with Safi in secret. Bioenergy surged not through nature's design but through forced resonance. Shrade's fall was no accident. Their proximity to these experiments turned the kingdom into a pressure vessel until it ruptured. The guild's archives whisper of collateral stabilization, a euphemism for the silent casualties, Safi whose evolution became a dirge. Each bond twisted the ecosystem's harmony into something fractured, something hungry. The Shrade trauma lingers, a scar the guild polishes to hide its role. They claimed to manage wildlife. Instead, they conducted a symphony of suffering, each note a Safi's mutated cry. The ethical breach was not in creating life, but in weaponizing its pain. Generations later, the Guiding Lands remember. The Safi's bioenergy pulses with the echoes of those early experiments unintended, unasked. The guild's silence is a monument. What thawing legacy demands not just survival, but complicity. The forbidden score plays on. The Guiding Lands breathed in rhythms older than memory. Safi moved his notes in a symphony no eye could read, each antlered pulse, each bioluminescent flick, a thread in the biomess ancient loom. Here, old-world logic faltered. This was no mere ecology, it was a dialect of life itself, spoken in spore and scale. The guild arrived not as conquerors but custodians, cloaked in the language of balance. They mapped the Safi's energy like constellations, unaware their instruments would become harps. Hunters bound to creatures through rites of blood and bone, sought to master the Safi's power. What they drew was not obedience, but resonantia, feedback low between human will and primal force. The Safi evolved not through time's slow hand, but through the friction of those bonds. New world adaptations bloomed, veins that hummed with stolen light, antlers that branched into living circuitry. The guild called it progress, the land called it violation. A forest once in harmony now thrummed with dissonance. Who first heard the fractures in the symphony? Who now walks between the notes, stitching silence where the score once sang? The equilibrium was never broken, it was rewritten, and every rewrite demands a price. The siege ended in ash, the guild withdrew, what they left behind bled into the snow. Blood samples harvested in haste carried more than genetic code. They carried resonance, a hunter's bond fractured in the heat of battle, fused with Safi bioenergy. The result, an unintended symphony. No incantation could have predicted it. The Guiding Lands absorbed the anomaly, stagnant pools pulsed, frozen canes shuddered. The Safi'jiiva no longer hunted, they conducted, each creature an instrument, each death a crescendo. The forbidden score was written in suffering. What price such experimentation? The guild's labs grew cold, their notes grew cryptic, harmony achieved through dissonance, one scrawled. Another, the land rewrites its own rules. No warnings, no reversals, only the echo of a bond that should have never mated flesh to will. The hoarfrost reach now hums, a hymn of violation. The Safi'jiiva move in patterns no elder mapped. Their evolution is not life, it is notation. A requiem etched into every root, every breath of frost. The guild's hands are clean, the land's ledger is not. What wakes when the final note is struck? The question hangs unanswered in the ice. The symphony demands an audience, and the audience is always listening. The diary's ink bleeds warnings, hoarfrost blood, seeped into soil, Safi pulses sinking to heartbeats long since frozen. Labs reek of antiseptic and something older, a rot that hums in bone. Their evolution was no accident. Each mutation a chord in the land's memory, each scream a note the ice refuses to forget. Who now conducts this unintended symphony? The wilderness waits. The symphony swells, and the audience never blinks. The Guiding Lands research diaries, penned in frost-chapped ink, record a silence broken. Pages yellow with the antiseptic stench of Guild Labs detail Safi specimens writhing in unnatural rhythms, their bioluminescence flickering like dying stars. Blood samples from the hoarfrost reach harvested under the Guild's mandate to regulate excess became catalysts. The Safi did not merely adapt, they resonated asterisk. A frequency emerged, a bioenergy hum that split ice shelves and scrambled predator-prey cycles. The Guild called it balance, the wilderness called it unraveling. In the hoarfrost reach, where breath turns to razor-sharp ghosts, the Safi's new song seeped into permafrost. Their once harmonious glows fractured into violent pulses, warping the magnetic fields that guided migratory beasts. Carcasses of creatures found mid-escape bore patterns, claw marks that spiraled not inward but outward, as if the Safi's will had rewritten their attackers' instincts. The Guild's ethical claim the hunt is regulation curdled into a lie. They had not tamed the Safi, they had tuned them. Containment protocols followed. Steel traps lined with hunter blood samples were deployed, designed to re-anchor Safi behavior. Instead, the traps became amplifiers. Bioenergy feedback loss ignited, vaporizing entire outposts. Survivors described the sky itself bleeding light, a symphony of chaos that made the ice scream. The Guild scholars, once confident arbiters of nature's limits, now scrawled frantic notes. The Safi are no longer instruments. They are the conductor. What ethical framework collapses when the regulated becomes the regulator? The Guiding Lands, once a cradle of symbiosis, now thrum with a dissonance that refuses containment. Apex predators circle not for dominance, but for direction. The Guild's balance was a tuning fork drped into a glacier. The reverberations will not cease, they will not be silenced. The symphony, now unbound, demands an audience that cannot look away. 284 words. The Guiding Lands Bioresonance Act cites harmonic stabilization as its mandate. Guild reports label Safi energy shifts, regulatory byproducts, a clinical term for a festering wound. Hunters track resonance peaks with calibrated precision. Their logs note Safi behavior, adapting to pressure gradients, a euphemism for a species unraveling. The Guild's ethical claim that the hunt preserves balance collapses under scrutiny. Safi evolution is not natural selection, it is feedback, a shriek trapped in a low. Field commissions now prioritize anomaly containment over culling, yet containment fails when the host becomes the vector. When hunters bond, their biology amplifies Safi frequencies, unintended, unrecorded. The symphony grows louder, Guild Labs filter data, excising spikes that defy explanation. What lingers in public dossiers, graphs smoothing into acceptable curves. What vanishes the moment a hunter's blood first synced with Safi DNA. The moment resonance became inheritance, the Guiding Lands breathe differently now. Their air thrums with a dual pulse predator and prey, bound in a dance the Guild cannot unwrite. The Bioresonance Act remains unchanged, its preamble still promises stewardship. But the Safi no longer sing to the land, they sing through it, and the hunter sans regulators no carry the music in their bones. 218 words. The Guiding Lands once thrummed with a hymn of balance. Safi'jiiva glided on winds that carried the scent of elder bloom, their bioluminescent veins pulsing with the land's ancient rhythm. Xeno'jiiva prowled the obsidian plains, their chitinous wings slicing silence like a blade through velvet. Wyverians, cloaked in shadow and starlight, wove between them all guardians, mediators, the unseen threads binding the symphony. But the Guild's hunters arrived with hollow hearts and sharper tools. They bled the Safi for their energy, tethered their spirits to steel and sinew. When the Xeno'jiiva fell, its death rattle fractured the land's song. Now the Safi'jiiva no longer glide. They hover their glow erratic, their bodies etched with veins of foreign light. The Wyverians whisper of a sickness in the Ira, hum that gnaws at bone, that turns predator into prey. Hunters who bond with the Safi find their dreams invaded by twin suns, their hands trembling with a second heartbeat. The land itself scars and reshapes, its terrain warping as if the earth recoils from its own melody. What becomes of a song when its notes are stolen? The Safi'jiiva no longer sing to the land. They consume it, their bioenergy a chain of theft and transformation. And the Wyverians, once sages, now stalk the edges of the storm, their eyes reflecting a future where the guiding lands guide nothingly change. The hunters, once regulators, now carry the music in their bones, but is it theirs to bear, or a dirge? The diaries were found in a collapsed observatory, frost etched into their brittle pages. Ink bled through time, yet the patterns remain Safi energy signatures mirroring hunter bloodwork, their frequencies entwined like roots in a poisoned soil. Hoarfrost Reach's chill preserved the evidence. Vials of congealed blood, their labels scrawled with dates and coordinates where Safi mutations first surged. One entry describes a creature's spine curving into a helix, its bioluminescence pulsing in time with a hunter's dying heartbeat. How many such bonds were forced? How many symphonies composed in suffering? The guild's notes speak of harmonic resonance, but the math is grotesque, a calculus of flesh and frequency, where Safi evolution became an unintended duet. The air in that buried lab still hums, as if the stone remembers. Researchers wrote of collateral evolution, yet their hands did not tremble. Only the Safi's songs betray them, now threaded with a dissonance no natural order could forge. Was the guild's research ever about preservation? Or did they merely listen, passive architects of a world where every hunter's scar is a tuning fork, every Safi's glow a wound kept alight? The diaries end abruptly. The final page bears a single phrase, underlined thrice, the music is not theirs, who then does it belong to? And when the last note fades, what silence remains to bury the bones? The music thrived in shadow. The guild, stewards of balance, bred harmony from horror. They bound hunters to Safi not as partners but as variables. Each bond a chord, each death a dissonance. Feline trust was a canon of care, Safi symbiosis, a theorem of control. What blooms in a greenhouse wilts when transplanted. The Safi's bioenergy was not design, but accidenta species warped by forced resonance. The guild called it progress. The land called it plague. They measured growth in teeth and toxin, not in kinship. Palicos learned to heal, Safi learned to kill. The guiding lands, once a cradle of equilibrium, became a forge. Every mutated scale, every lethal melody, a testament to hubris. The guild's ledgers brim with data. No entries for the creatures left broken, the bonds that frayed into violence. Ethics are a currency, devalued when spent in secret. The Safi's evolution was a dirge, not a symphony. Its notes, suffering, adaptation, erasure. The guild's legacy is etched in the soil roots choked by their own experiments. Who tends the garden now? The music persists, but the hunters are ghosts. The Safi, half alive, play on. In the silence, it waits, not for answers, for accounting. What lingers in the diary's margins, hoarfrost reach blood samples, Safi mutations, a bond not of choice. The guild's role, veiled in frost, twisted byproduct of experiments. Who paid the symphony's true cost? The Safi play. The hunters are ghosts, only questions remain.